Hello and welcome to the 15th day of February 2022. My name is Kurt and this is my daily Good Life meditation, an activity that I do every day to remind myself of my collected life objectives and principles, to see how I did applying those yesterday and last night. And boy, that's an apt way to put it, applying it. Usually the night isn't a matter of applying, it's a matter of just sleeping, but I did actually work to apply these last night. And then finally to prepare for the coming day and try to anticipate whatever challenges I might encounter and prepare whatever principles I might need, lay them out like a sous chef getting ready to prepare something nice in the kitchen. Ingredients and measuring cups and sauce bowls. Excuse me, my allergies, boy. They're doing better. I'm taking the allergy medicine in the morning. In fact, I should have taken it before I started this. It would have a chance to work its way through. And I'm also wearing my mask now while I'm out walking the dogs, which is helping a lot too. First, last night, there's an old Simon and Garfunkel song, which may not be theirs. It may be somebody else's, but it goes, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." And I'm my darkness is back. All things being equal. I mean, it's a very relative darkness. In fact, it might not even be worthy of that title. This is just all about work. So it's just standard disclaimer. There are people out there struggling with things that are impossible, things that may or will kill them. So I just want to say that I everything that I say relative to my stuff is minor in comparison. The horror show, right? But still, when it's your own challenge, it sure does seem heavy. Whatever it is, right? I mean, when we were teens, it was a real mental anguish just to pick out an outfit for the day. Not that was ever the case with me, but I know that's the case for some. So it's all relative. But it doesn't diminish the fact that it's still difficult. So last night I slept awful from about maybe 3:30, and then from about 3:30, my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. for about an hour and a half. Now this is a pattern. That's why I'm saying my old friend. This is a pattern that I fell into after I switched jobs and I went to Ventura. I started working there. After about the first 6 months, this began as the pandemic struck and challenges wore on, and the flight path that we had for the projects weren't feasible, and we had to make all kinds of mid-flight adjustments, so to speak. And what would begin to happen is that all of the little activities that I need to do for work, all the decisions and tasks I need to do, that I list them out on a piece of paper as I go through the day, and then I transfer them into the project management application that I'm using. They're all in there, and they're all really managed, and I think they're managed well. But for some reason, they also collect in my mind. It feels like it collects right back here. It actually feels like it has a place. I wonder if that maps to anything in the brain. And then right about 3 a.m., usually about an hour and a half, when it was really bad, it was 2. When it was really bad last year, it was about 3 hours before I was getting up like 2 a.m. That's not the case now. And it's like having someone tapping at the pane of the window, tap, 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 tap. And you turn around and, holy crap. There's like one or somebody outside the window, right? And they're like, I'm that thing you need to think about. I'm that question you need to attend to, that meeting you need to schedule, that thing you can't forget. lest the world collapse all around you, Kurt. Literally collapse all around you. Liar. You're like, wow. And you're thinking about that, and then you hear another. What the hell? Oh shit, there's another one. Excuse my language. And it's like that for the wee hours, right? Just this tapping, and as soon as you seem to be, wrestling with the one thing, and it's so futile and useless because it's not the venue to manage these things. The venue to manage them is when I'm sitting at my desk attending to my work. And before long, they don't tend to all clamor at once, but it's one after another until your neck is strained from turning at all the windows that are where the tapping is coming from. And then the alarm goes off, which is a blessed suffering because it means that your chance of a full night's rest is finished. But at least you can get over with this. And then, the way I take my routine, I indulge. I do more. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius would be disappointed in me. I take 2 showers a day, one in the morning and one in the evening. It's just my habit. So I take my morning shower, which kind of washes it away, and then I get down to the day. And usually it's a difficult, this prime time right now, I'm still thinking about it. I'm kind of lingering from it. I'll take the dogs for a walk. I'll have my breakfast. And as soon as I sit down, sometimes almost immediately, back in Ventura, I used to have a 7:30 a.m. morning, which was a blessed chore. I enjoyed that team very much, and I enjoyed that meeting. In fact, those meetings will always be memorable in my mind for some interesting reasons, probably because of the people. But anyway, as soon as that 7:30 a.m. morning meeting would hit, because I led the meeting, it would all wash away. Because you're getting down to the real deal now. I don't have that 7:30 meeting now, so it's a little harder. I have to kind of push into it. But usually by 8:30, I'm very diligent. As soon as my workday starts, I'm off and I'm working, and I push myself to get the momentum going. It's like it's like pushing a downhill bobsled. And then you jump in the cart for the next 8 or 9 hours. And then you come to the end, at the end of the day. No wonder I'm so damn tired every night. Jeez, that just made me tired just thinking about that. So it's funny, for a while during the Ventura years, when it was really bad. I thought I was losing my mind. I did not lose my mind. I was having downright panic attacks back then. You'd wake up and kind of hyperventilate in the middle of the night. I had a really difficult project in Ventura. The pandemic really, COVID-19 really shook up the world for us in our terms of our routines and our ways of life. And for my projects, especially my one project, it really shook that up. It was like trying to decide that we were building an airplane, and then halfway through the build of the airplane, we decided we wanted to make it into a rocket ship. So, that's what it feels. I think that's an apt analogy. There's better ones, but that's what the challenge felt like. Shit, excuse me, that's the second time I've said that today. So how the hell do you take how do you make an airplane how do you make a rocket ship out of a passenger jet? No wonder I couldn't sleep. But we did it. It's up there in orbit right now. Okay, so I'm going through that now, and I kind of resigned myself to this is probably the way it's going to be. So the 2 principles, like I said, I was actually I was searching through the principles as I was, tossing in bed last night. Okay, what can I use? Probably try to apply a little apathy here. No, I can't do the apathy because this is not outside my control. Maybe a little temperance. I'll just don't think about it. No, that didn't work either. So finally, what kind of helped was the principle, and remember, everything's relative, of the horror show, realizing that we all have very difficult things that happen in our life to a greater or lesser degree. I wouldn't call this horror necessarily, but it certainly is difficult. And then the principle of that which must be borne, which that one was the helper. Um, this is just something that I have to bear as part of the job that I have. It's a consequence of my career path and the way that I am. And I've never been one to seek for a life that was peace from morning till dawn and then beyond, and from dawn till dusk. So I'm okay with that. So it's just something that I have to bear. But fortunately, maybe not for too long. You know, Yumiko and I are, you know, we've been thinking about maybe pulling the trigger on retirement in 2024. It's 2 years away from now. I would like to go further because the longer I can continue to work, the better our retirement. But that's a catch-22, right? With diminishing returns, right? Yumiko is much more of a mind that let's retire sooner with less, so that we can enjoy our health while we still got it and have enjoy that. And she's right. She's got a good point there. If that was the case, then I was thinking maybe in August 2024. Just that'll be like that, right? Boy, that would be even before the picking of the next president, wouldn't it? Wow. I don't know. That just seems too soon. But I can hold that. I can dangle that, and say, because that seems to help when thinking that this might one day come to an end. Well, certainly will come to an end. But well, anyway. All right. Well, enough about that. Pretty rotten night's sleep. Well, rotten tail end, and that's probably the way it's going to be every morning. So I should just expect that. I shouldn't. I should. There you go. There you go. Recognition of. There's another principle I can use. The recognition of true limits and true opportunity. I don't seem to have the ability to manage this anxiety, this work anxiety. So it may be a limit that I just have to then bear. It's something that I have to bear as part of the price of the job that I've got. So there's that. Otherwise, the day went really good yesterday. I had one really important meeting that went well. I was ready for it. I had prepared myself for it. If I had known how that meeting was actually going to go, I would have been more anxious. I would have definitely would not have slept well the night before, because it was one of those meetings where, I found myself in the steering, not the driver's seat. I wasn't driving the meeting, but I was driving the agenda, kind of. And I was expecting more of the vendor to do that, which is kind of a worrisome thing. If I was in the vendor's position, I would have come to that meeting with a roadmap. And I would have said, okay, customer, you're going to pay us a lot of money. Here's the map of what we're going to do. Our next meetings are going to lay out as follows. We need to assemble the following teams. Your first action items, your next steps are these three things. Let's schedule our next meeting as project manager. Project manager, how about tomorrow? Do you have time in the afternoon? And then we'll schedule a routine after that. That's how I would have done it if I was the vendor. So I kind of went into the meeting as the customer thinking, oh, great, we're paying these people a lot of money. They're going to show us the way. But fortunately, I had planned and said, what if they don't do that? What if they show up and we've got, I mean, there was like CEO, there was a CEO in the meeting, and the executive sponsor for our organization was in the meeting. These are big guns, right? And there was a vice president in there as well. That's why. So what if we show up to this meeting and they don't do that? We do the formalities, greetings. Hey, how are you doing? So, how about that Super Bowl? So I had planned for that. I had laid out my own agenda in an emergency, right? In case the vendor doesn't show up with an agenda. So that's exactly what happened. And I was like, well, okay, all right. Well, how about this? And I started going through, which was in a way a blessing, because that way I was able to get movement and action on the things that I think are important. But it's like, okay, it's like now we're going to build an aircraft carrier, right? I've never built an aircraft carrier before. What the hell do I know about aircraft carriers? I built a plane that turned into a rocket ship, so I know how to do that, kind of. Jeez, but I don't know anything about aircraft carriers. Hopefully, they won't want to turn into a submarine halfway through. No wonder I can't sleep. Today will be a little bit better. Today's a big day too. You know, today's where the rubber meets the road for another thing, but I think I've got that under control. So, ah, ah, let's do the good life. 15 minutes in. I didn't say the word. I was going to say, should I do the lightning round? I already made my salad. I think I'm okay. Okay, here we go. The good life consists of 7 objectives as follows. 1, to be always ready to die, to have my financial affairs, my relationships, and my life's work in order, so that if I die today, it's all in good shape. Speaking of my life work, this is it right here. This book, Going Alone, encapsulates what I did with the most important thing that I did with my life besides my family, what I discovered, and these objectives and principles. So yeah, it's done. It's sitting right there. If I died right now, my daughter will find that. My wife will find my financial stuff in the file over there, and I gave them all a hug and told them I love them. So that's good enough. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of time. I, I think I'm really doing a good job at that. I don't waste time anymore. My free time, especially with this new office, it's really nice. I have a nice sound system, and I sit here in the evenings after dinner and I read my book and listen to classical Roman music. It's amazing, man. The glory of Rome. While reading the classics, and then number 3 is to develop good and sound life principles. That's the 7 and 30 I'm reciting now. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to react well to life. I think I'm doing pretty good with that. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. I don't get many chances to do that anymore now that I live this hermit's life, working from home. And then the next one is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities. So I'm staying within the lane lines, yet exploring new territory that is within my perceived scope of possibility, while all the while questioning whether my apprehension of scope is correct, because maybe I can go further than I think. And then finally, to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly all the time, never to multitask. That's a tough one at work. I started multitasking. I realized that the other day. I was reading. I was reading Aristotle's on the nature of the universe, which is right here, and then I started reading Lucretius's. No, this is on man in the universe, and that one's called the nature. The nature of the universe. I didn't realize those titles were so similar. I started this one, and this one got really tough. I mean, it was really heavy. So my brain needed a rest, so I switched to that book. And that one got really tough. And that was really heavy. So then over the weekend, I started reading both of them. I'd go back and forth, just to give my mind a break. But I realized I was multitasking. I'm like, stop that. So I put that back on the shelf. I've got 2 shelves over here, the stack of books that I have yet to read and the stack of books that I have read. It's not all of them because I tend to not keep my books, but I'm going to start doing that and have a pretty stack. And then so I switched I'm going to read Aristotle until I finish it. No more multitasking. Those are my 7 objectives. Let's do the 30 principles. Number 1 is to always be fighting against the things that I think are true and the seemingly important things that others claimed they want me to believe. And the next one is to use reason in that effort, and to try to be objective and honest with myself and others, and to be always a skeptic. And then to always remember that I'm a mortal within this skull. This is a little brain mush in there, and there's no spirit, there's no soul. There's no evidence, no reason to believe that. It's just something we made up so that we can be afraid of life and cower in the corner and tell ourselves it'll all get better someday because we'll die and go someplace else where our fears won't be applicable anymore, and we waste our lives away because we just tell ourselves we don't have to live now because we'll live forever somehow. So I choose not to. I choose not to fool myself in that capacity. And if I am fooling myself and telling me that there is no soul, then I'll accept that consequence too. Um, so then the next one is the that little thing, that the consciousness that I'm talking about doesn't really ever able to connect with anybody. All we can do is send signals across the void to one another, just like I'm sending you a signal here. I send you likewise when I pet my dog. It's just a signal, and when I talk to my wife, and all these things. So we're really all alone and in an unreachable position. And the things that we collect in our minds and our ideas about right and wrong are just our opinions, really. There's no objective right or wrong, unless you can objectively measure, unless you have some value that you apply it to. For example, if you say virtue is the improved well-being of creatures, particularly thinking creatures, then if you and I can agree that drinking battery acid is not something that furthers the well-being, then we've come across an objective um, idea for right and wrong. But even that is subjective to the degree that we value life. It's basically what it boils down to. That one. See, I should have taken my allergy medicine. What it boils down to is that there's right and wrong or something between our ears, not not written in the stars, not coded in starlight. And then purpose. I have 3 purposes in my life: to be a good father, to be a virtuous man. I already defined virtue, and to pursue my mission, which is the sharing of my story, which you can buy Going Alone on Amazon or from my website, goingalone.org. Next, everything is made of bits and pieces, atoms and molecules, and very, very soon, whatever constituent thing we are right now will fall apart. I'll die. I'll be hopefully burnt up. Even better if they would just dump me in the desert. Or one way or another, this corpse is going to atoms again, going to molecules and dust. So it's good to keep that in mind. Also, everything has some particular nature, the way that it is. For example, it's the nature of IT projects to have change. And the change is the stuff that keeps me awake at night, and the complexity. So I should remember that that's the nature of this. And as long as I'm in this game, that's the way it's going to be, because that is the way it is. And then free will is an illusion. It's we are really just always making decisions that are the tipping point in forces of everything in our life, pushing and jostling against us, or just go left, rocket ship. And then maturity, we are mature when we wisely remember our successes and failures, and then have the strength to pursue the first and avoid the latter. We human beings need one another. We do best when we choose to be with others. And it's important to be very careful about how we speak, and to learn to measure our sentences, and to pick our vocabulary carefully, and to never, ever, ever gossip, where gossip is defined as speaking about someone else, where we would find we were embarrassed if we learned that they were behind us overhearing what we were saying. It's a tricky thing, but it's an easy thing to avoid. Next is to control my consumption. I think Aristotle would define temperance to the foodstuffs, to consumption of food and drink, but I expand it to also our consumption of things like work and play and sex and any recreation, anything at all. I would just do that in moderation in all cases. And to recognize that that entails some suffering if we deny ourselves what we want. I'm not going to give myself another cookie. And that such a life is a simple life. And that I can apply apathy to the things that are outside of my control. Which really doesn't belong there. Someday I'll find a good place for apathy. Probably belongs with true limits and true opportunity. Maybe I should move it there. And then comes the horror show. Life is chock full of just awful stuff. And I want to remember that. Not dwell on it too much, but remember it so that I can be an adult and cognizant of the suffering around me and ready for bearing it myself when the time comes, as it certainly will. And it already is, to a very small degree last night. Then there's that which must be borne, which is the fact that you have to just kind of, there's some things in life we just have to carry. Like for as long as I'm a project manager, I'll probably have to carry my morning anxiety. And then the Feast of Offal is when we get upset and throw our upset out into the world, trying to release it, but unfortunately we tend to splatter others. So I don't want to do that, because I don't want to splatter you with my upset and my anxieties. It's okay to share, but it's a different thing to do so recklessly and with the sole purpose of voiding it from our bodies. Literally, that's what it's like. Because then when we soil other people, they wind up doing the same thing, and it just spreads. All right. We distract ourselves so that we don't have to see the emptiness of the universe. We don't have to apprehend the thing that we suspect, that God doesn't exist. So if we look at the background void of the universe, it's hard not to see that. So we don't look. We get busy with our jobs and our families and our television and our exercise and our religion, whatever it is that we want to use to paint a picture of a busy world where the void has no place. It's out there somewhere, some distant thing, and God lives there. Take my word for it. That's the distraction that we undertake to avoid seeing the great indifference. And I want to be all right with where I am and what I'm doing and who I am. And to have the strength to push forward into new life. Because that's, for me, and my wife, that's the way we like to live our lives. In fact, we're getting restless for it again. We were talking over the weekend about what it would be like to go back to Japan. In fact, I had someone write to me on YouTube or send me a message saying it's time for another decade in Japan. I could see that. Although that might just barely bring us to the end of the story. And to attend to the surface level risks of life, of security and family and work and job, well, all the while also looking out for the deeper ambitions of adventure and finding oneself, and then maybe sharing a tale. Pardon me. And then to not believe things too readily, to not just go with what seems to be the standard way of my people, or because someone who speaks very well tells me of a particular way, or just because I want to believe, and I want to believe that the belief in the belief is sufficient reason for the belief. That sounds like a song. And to not be superstitious. and to never gossip. Otherwise, if I engage in any of those things, I risk living a damned life. Not a damned life, but a damned life in the here and now. And to remember that there is no afterlife. That the only chance we're going to get to foster good relationships, to reconcile differences, and to pursue justice is in the here and now. Because death is most likely just a continuation of that state that we did not know before we were born, which is nothing, and therefore nothing to be afraid of. But if you want those important things, seemingly important things, at least in the here and now, then pursue them in the here and now. And to have one or more big adventures in life, and then to write about it. And when the words come, to write them down, because the words go. And to remember that I strive for the mark, but usually miss. Sometimes I miss the target altogether. And then to keep pressing uphill, climb, climb, climb. And to remember that this life is a venue where we get to attempt to live our best, and to develop some objectives and principles along the way to apply towards those ends. And to try to be well with less. And wouldn't it be something else to get by with next to nothing? And then finally, to have fun. To not just work hard all day, but to really reserve some time for a good time as well. And to not be ashamed of that. Okay, that's it. That's my good life meditation for today. Planning for the day. I've got I'm doing a training class today. I think it'll go pretty straightforward. I would like to review that first. I'm hoping to have a meeting with the other project manager from the big project today. I do want to work on a spreadsheet. I hate having duplicate spreadsheets, but I really think I need one for the big project to help organize some things. I'm going to think a little more about that, but I think I'm going to do that. The day, therefore, should be a very standard day of hard work. Maybe things will get a little easier through the week, but I don't think so. I think this is the ramp-up period. It's been about 2.5 months since I came back to work here. I think I've executed well on my main thing that I was hired back to do, which starts today with that training class that I'll be delivering starting today. And I think that from here on in, this is going to be the way it is. Serious work, hard work, deliberate work, every working day, and anxiety from about 3 to 4 o'clock, and between 3 and 5 a.m. in the morning as my mind pools the things I have to do. I don't think I can get around that unless I was to drug myself, which I will not do. I didn't mean to smirk at that. People literally do that. They'll drown themselves in alcohol or drugs to avoid that with the tauntings of their mind. That's never been an option for me. So I guess I just have to recognize that that's the way it is as long as I have this career going. And maybe I should listen to my wife and consider retiring in 2 years. Why not? Maybe when Emily's done with school, then maybe Yumiko and I can go back to Japan and have that little tiny house next to the shrine. And when the rain comes down in the mornings and the thunder is going, and it's just and I don't have to go to work, and I just say, I'm just going to snuggle into bed, go back to sleep. I'm not that kind of guy. I can't do that. But I won't go to work. I'll get up and I'll make a cup of tea, and all these books that I've collected here, I'm going to put them in a box and send them over, and I'll be making my way through them slowly, one by one. That'll be fun. And then Yumiko and I, we can take the train to various parts of Japan and have sampled the food and stay in small Japanese inns and explore and have fun and talk about life. That'll be fun. Okay, that'll be a happy ending. Okay, well, that's what I should call it. Yeah. Have a good day. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.